Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your favorite podcast in the whole world, Jedi Eternal, a Star Wars podcast. Guess what? It is episode 80.
Hey.
We have finally broken through the 70s and just came triumphantly into the 80s here.
Very triumphant.
So we're excited to be here today. It's been a second, but hey, this is actually our second week in a row, so we're doing pretty good right now.
This is the best we've done in months, so I know you're all very proud of us.
Anyway, so, of course, I am one of your co-hosts, Braxton Taylor, alongside Andrew. I have nothing funny to say this week. Bolin. I couldn't think of anything. It's been a wild couple days, so I'm just not going to say anything funny. So, but yeah, we're excited. So, I don't know. Anything funny to say on your end, I guess?
No, not really.
We're just not very funny this week.
No, we're not. But what I do want to say is, we just finished the Kenobi series.
Yes,
it's over. It's done.
Yes.
The Obi-Wan Kenobi series that we waited so long for and talked about.
It's finished.
It is finished.
It's finished day.
And so, of course, with that comes a lot of thoughts that we're going to share with you guys today. We're going to be talking a lot about Obi-Wan Kenobi, what we thought of it, especially the finale, and also what we think happens from here.
Right.
Will there be a season 2? Should there be a season 2? We'll get into all of that stuff. But yeah, it's kind of a weird time for me. Because again, it's something, we talked about it for a long time. There was nothing more exciting to us in Star Wars than the idea of getting this show.
So after that.
Yeah, and so now, we'll talk if do we feel like it met expectations and all of that. But
yeah, we'll get into
what's
all
funny
that.
is we talked about this for a moment before we started, but that of all the shows we've done so far, it was this one that we never actually got to get together and watch.
So sad.
An episode.
Sad.
We didn't get to see a single one of these episodes together.
It's the one that we've talked about forever.
Yeah,
which is so funny.
And,
but anyway,
and we share such a love for the prequels and for these characters, and so it was really weird that we didn't get to watch any of those. And the reason for that is because Disney Plus decided to change their day they release these episodes. It used to be on Fridays, which worked out really great for us to get together. And as soon as we would watch it, we would come into the studio and then record. Well, now it's on a Wednesday in the middle of the week. And
nice midweek evening.
It does not work for us anymore to do that. And so we have obligations and things. So we can't do it. And so it's really a shame, though, because I do think no matter what I thought of this series, and we'll get into all of that, I do think it would have taken it up one more notch had we been together watching this series.
Especially the finale.
Especially the finale.
And we'll get into why that is.
And we'll get into that, yeah.
So, like I said, we don't want to bore you with the details here, but we do always want to mention at least once before we get into our main segments each week when we do the podcast, and that is we have a Patreon. And with that Patreon, we only have one tier at this moment, which is $5 a month. And with that comes several things. Of course, if you do subscribe to that and become one of our patrons, you will get instantaneous access to anything that we post, i.e. our podcast, our Jedi Eternal podcast, our Let's Play episodes, as soon as they are uploaded. So you do not have to wait for the Saturdays for them to be uploaded. Secondarily, become a producer of Jedi Eternal, and of course over the patron side of it as well, or Patreon side of it as well, which you guys get to help us make some decisions. Where do you want us to go? What's some stuff you want us to see? So you get to have a direct say in that. And then last but not least, what we're actually going to be doing after this episode today is you get access to a Patreon exclusive podcast called And Other Stuff, where Andrew and I just jabber on about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun in that. And again, this is, you get kind of a more personal look into our lives. We get a little more just personal with everything going on with us. And it's not just about Star Wars. It's about a lot of things. Even though Star Wars does get entered into the conversation.
Every once in a while,
But we do have a good time there. We do talk a lot about video games and movies, TV, That's usually what you'll find us talking about.
Yeah.
But you never know. You never know. It could be anything. And
be
a lot of
anything.
times, if you guys are paying that $5 to be a producer, you can request
Yes.
for us to talk on something. And we did get a request for this past week
did
that
we?
we will.
I
Oh,
didn't
you
re-
haven't
I
seen
didn't-
it?
I didn't
Oh,
see
yeah.
it.
We did get one. We did get one. So you're gonna have to you're gonna have to look at that before we do it. But
Great. Okay. All right. So anyway, like I said, so we don't want to take this too long, but at the end of also, like I said, becoming a producer of our podcast and a subscriber to our Patreon, we also do shout you out every single episode of Jedi Eternal.
Yeah.
And so we are going to go ahead and have Drew list off our current patrons.
Yes, give a big shout out to the one and only Josh and Birkinshaw, also known as JB. Tara Bolin, which is my beautiful wife. Grace and David Gill. Alex Mason. Jay Camdar. And Jenna Evans.
Let's go.
Again, we thank you all so very much for your support. It means the world to us.
It truly does. We're so thankful for all the things that you guys do for us and sticking with us. But one of those things, of course, you stick with is Jedi Eternal, not just the Patreon. There's a vast majority of you guys who do this rather than Patreon. So we want to go ahead and just jump right into what you all know and love. So our first news piece for this week is that High Republic Convergence has its cover and its synopsis revealed. So as those of you who may be aware or may not be aware, the phase 1 of High Republic has come to an end, and now they are booting up phase 2, which, as we know, kind of goes back in time, a bit of a prequel, which is kind of an interesting choice. But High Republic Convergence, which, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the first books, correct, that's coming out?
Yes, this will be the first adult novel of phase 2.
Right, and so they just dropped the cover for it and the synopsis. So we're going to get a little interesting sneak peek into what this new phase is going to hold for us. So, Drew, what do you got on that?
Yeah, so this we got the cover. You can check that out basically anywhere. We could also post it. I don't know if we've posted it on our social media.
We have, yeah.
We probably can though. We can post that for you guys so you can see it. So you can check it out on Jedi Eternal when you're listening to this.
Yes.
But again, it's Convergence. This is written by Zoraida Cordova. She is a relatively new Star Wars author. She has written at least one other Star Wars book, but I do not believe she has written in the High Republic yet. At least I don't think so.
Gotcha.
But she, the interesting thing about this also that we learned is that it was originally slated for release on October 4th, but now it is coming on November 15th.
Oh,
so they did push
interesting.
it back.
It was a graphics issue, I think.
And so we do have a synopsis here that I can read to you guys. So it says, it is an age of exploration. Jedi travel the galaxy, expanding their understanding of the Force and all the worlds and beings connected by it. Meanwhile, the Republic, led by its 2 chancellors, works to unite worlds in an ever-growing community among near and distant stars. On the close orbiting planets of Urim and Arono, the growing pains of a galaxy with limited resources but unlimited ambition are felt keenly. Their hatred for each other has fueled half a decade of escalating conflict and now threatens to consume surrounding systems. The last hope for peace emerges when heirs from the 2 planets' royal families plan to marry.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yes. Before lasting peace can be established, an assassination attempt targeting the couple tilts Urim and Narono back into all-out war. To save both worlds, Jedi Knight Gela Natai volunteers to uncover the culprit, while Chancellor Kyong appoints her son, Axel Greylark, to represent the Republic's interests in the investigation. But Axel's deep distrust of the Jedi sparks against Gela's faith in the Force. She's never met such a puffed-up, privileged party boy, and he's never met a more self-serious, relentless do-gooder. The more they work to untangle the shadowy web of the investigation, the more complicated the conspiracy appears to be. With accusations flying and potential enemies in every shadow, the pair will have to work together to have any hope of bringing the truth to light and saving both worlds.
That's interesting. So, and again, this is something I think we said when they first came out with the High Republic Phase 1, but I kind of have to reiterate on this one too. And like I said, it is a concern, but they clearly did it well on the first phase. But my point is that this, I'm reading this like my thing is like, why do I care? What does this have to do with anything that we're doing? You know what I'm saying? Like what we've read thus far. Why am I going to be invested in this? And so they're going to have something to prove for sure whenever they come into this to hook people in.
So here's the next twist to all of this that I'm going to throw in here. Now, we've known about Phase 2 for a while. We've known that they're going back in time even further, which was, of course, an interesting decision. But here is what's really interesting is that we've had all of Wave 1 announced, and now we've even seen Wave 2. But Wave 2 is all we're getting. We're not getting a Wave 3 like we did in...
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Apparently. And the reason is they announced the final novel for... They actually call it the thrilling conclusion to Phase 2 is Path of Vengeance by Cavan Scott. Which is a young adult novel.
Yeah, I remember you saying that like that it was just an interesting choice that's how they would end it with a young adult novel. Like that.
And so here's what's weird. What we learned with the first phase of the High Republic is you would get an adult novel. The adult novel was kind of like the centerpiece, right? And then you would get a young adult novel and a middle grade novel and a comic issue. Or comic series they were all like supplemental to the main adult novel, right? They were all like they would complement it, but they weren't the main set piece of the series, if that makes sense. It's the best way I can think to put it.
Yeah.
This seems to be shaking all of that up, and so now I'm confused on really how this is going to work, and maybe I won't know until I read it, because Wave 1 of Phase 2 is going to start with Path of Deceit, which is a young adult novel.
Right.
So it's starting with that.
Yeah, it's going to start with the young adult, and it's going to end with the young adult, which is interesting.
So it's starting with that, and next is the middle grade novel, and then last in Wave 1 is the adult novel. So that makes me wonder, so is Path of Deceit the main plot of this phase? Is the young adult novels the main plot of this phase instead of the adult novels this time?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
And it'll be interesting to see how that works. And I hesitate to say they'll officially ever make like this is the one, because they want everybody to read everything and they want it all to feel important, so they don't really want to label it that way. But I think it was very clear that the adult novels in the first phase were the main story, and everything else was complemented that. And so again, we'll have to jump into Path of Deceit and see what it is and see if it feels like it. But yeah, then when we get Wave 2, we get an adult novel. It starts with an adult novel in Wave 2.
Okay.
But it ends with the conclusion of Phase 2, they're saying. So they're not just saying, I mean, they're calling it the conclusion, right?
Right.
With Path of Vengeance. So
definitely an interesting choice for sure.
And Wave 2, those come out April 4th, 2023. That's the adult and middle grade novel. Both come out April 4th, 2023. And then the conclusion, Path of Vengeance, will be May 2nd, 2023. And Cavan Scott did a fantastic job writing in the High Republic with the second adult novel specifically. He did such a fantastic job with that, so I'm really excited to see what he does here.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of really great writers in Phase 1, but Cavan Scott, he really stuck out to me as well. I was really impressed with his work.
He did a great job.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, there's a lot to be excited about. Again, an interesting approach, but if you had any love for the first phase, I'm sure we're gonna get some good stuff in Phase 2. So.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see. It really does seem to be implicating that the young adult novels here will be the main ones this time. So we'll just have to, we'll let you guys know. Of course, I'll be reading these day one, and you can come back here for our thoughts on it, reviews, all that stuff. And who knows, Braxton might even read them too.
That's the plan.
Because you're caught up, right?
Yeah, I'm caught up.
You're caught up on the High Republic, so
that is true.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, take us off, Drew.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I always love it. Like we talk for so long, we don't know who to do it, and we're just sitting there looking at each other. I'm like, it's your turn.
I couldn't remember at all. So our next news story here is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 can't be completed on the Nintendo Switch due to game-breaking bug.
Imagine that.
So, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2: The Sith Lords has always been kind of notorious for being a game that, followed up on a legend. The original Knights of the Old Republic is such a loved game, and this one was either hit or miss for fans. There were some fans that loved it, they adored it. There were other fans that didn't, and a big problem, if you want to call it that, was that the original game was made by BioWare, and the same ones that made Mass Effect, and there was something else I was going to bring up, but it doesn't matter. And then the second game was not made by BioWare; it was made by Obsidian. And as some of you may know, Obsidian is known to kind of like follow up on games that didn't get a sequel. For example, Fallout 3 was made by Bethesda, and then Obsidian jumped in and made Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, that's true.
Because people wanted more of Fallout. They wanted similar to Fallout 3. Bethesda had moved on to Skyrim, and so they brought in Obsidian and Obsidian basically upgraded some different things, but kept the same style.
Which ironically, it kind of like correlates what you said about KOTOR 2, right?
Exactly.
Is it like with New Vegas, people either loved it or they
either
hated
loved it or hated it. Yeah. So Obsidian is known to do this. This is nothing new. But what we're talking about here today specifically is not necessarily... Oh, actually, I wanted to say one more thing about that. The KOTOR 2, also, they were kind of in a rush to get it released, and so it was released somewhat unfinished. There was a like complete edition that fans kind of brought back together and completed the game that is considered to be the best version of the game. And that is actually going to eventually be coming to the Switch version, which I think is cool that they're going to do that.
That's cool. Yeah.
So that's actually going to, it's not yet, but it is something they're adding. So what we're talking about here today, though, is that it was released on the Nintendo Switch, and come to find out, there's a game-breaking bug that is preventing players from being able to progress and finish the story. And so the developer reached out. So after people were saying, hey, like, we can't even finish this game, the developers then made a statement on Twitter saying that they're aware there's currently no way to finish the game, apologized for the inconvenience, and noted its team was working on delivering a patch as soon as possible.
So, TBD.
So, just right off the bat, Braxton, what's your thoughts on that?
That's... Okay, so... shameless plug, but I think it was 1 or 2 episodes ago in our and other stuff. That was actually one of the topics that I had brought up, is that it's kind of like the state of gaming recently, or of the past. I don't know, the past. I don't know however long, right? But for a while now, it feels like people just, these games developers and these publishers and stuff are just pushing out these unfinished games, or pushing out things that will give you a product so we can help our base numbers, and then as it goes, we'll work on it from there. And again, unfortunately, it just kind of feels like how this one was too. I mean, when there's something so big where you can't even finish the game, that doesn't really bode well for you, for people's faith in the company or faith in the game itself. And people can get a bad taste in their mouth for sure when it comes to that kind of stuff, Right.
So this is being developed by Aspyr. And what is, I think the most important thing to note about this is that Aspyr is also the developer of the Knights of the Old Republic remake.
Exactly.
Now,
yeah.
That being said, I would assume there's probably They probably have multiple teams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know that this team is the one that's even working on the remake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could have whole different people working on these. But what I will say is this does concern me a little bit that the people who are making a complete remake of Knights of the Republic, when it came to doing this remaster, again, for those who maybe aren't used to the terminology in video games, remaster means you take a game that's been made and you shine it up, make it prettier, you put it on a new system, something of that nature, but you don't actually mess with what's there. What was there is still there. Remake in the video game terminology means you completely remake the game. It's the original game is no longer there. You have completely made a new engine for it. You've done all this stuff to it. So that's kind of the difference there.
Right.
With this remaster, how do you mess it up that bad? How do you take a remaster?
It's already an existing game.
Existing game. Essentially, you maybe prettied it up a little bit, not very much though. Trust me, it doesn't look that great. I've seen videos and stuff, but they put it onto this system, and somehow there's this game breaking bug, and you didn't even know. Like that seems. That's concerning.
Did you not test it, or did you not care?
Right.
You know?
And what's really concerning to me about it is what that means for this remake by this same developer.
Yeah.
Like, when this comes, this remake of this game has to be good.
Right.
Like, it can't come out and be half broken. It can't be ugly. It can't be. It has to be really, really good.
Right.
Or there's gonna be very angry people.
I mean, KOTOR is it's sacred for so many people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they're going down a dangerous road here if they can't even fix this.
An existing game, let alone making
their own. An update to that article, the developer said they had a way they can get you around this, a temporary workaround. Today, we are it's June 24th. This was originally posted June 20th, and so we're looking at 4 days so far. This has been being talked about. Mm-hmm. And they said on the 22nd, they said that there is a cheat code you can use to skip that part of the game, and by skipping that part of the game, it would save you from the game-breaking bug. So by using that cheat code, it would allow you to complete the game. So I did want to make that clear. So if you want to look into that, you can you just look it up. You'll find it somewhere.
Yeah, it's out there. This is Konami code or something. I don't know.
If you can't look it up and can't find it, then you got bigger problems than trying to beat this game. Okay?
Yeah. You have much larger issues. We're not gonna talk about that though.
Alex Mason's just like he's looking everywhere. This is sweating right now, trying to find it, and he can't find it anywhere. And he's like,
Google.
Sorry, Alex, I have to use you.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's go ahead and move on before Andrew offends anyone else. So our final news piece for this week is
I have a list of our producers. I have to make a little check by each one after I make fun of them. Yeah. How many times can I insult my producers?
You don't hit them 2 times in a row. Or,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gotta spread the love.
Oh yeah, spread it out, baby. So our last news piece is that as many of you may know, we actually did post the trailer on our Facebook page, but Lego Star Wars: A Summer Vacation, the new trailer for that just released and dropped earlier this week. And so if you remember correctly from our previous episode, that is the next thing that is coming out in terms of TV, movie, etc. So now that Kenobi has ended, the next thing we're going to see is this new Summer Vacation. And again, it's not canon. It's not anything like serious or whatever. It's just a fun Lego movie. And like I said, if you watch the trailer, it's just pure goofy Disney Lego classic goofiness. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's nothing crazy to it, but it's always just a fun watch,
Yeah, I can't help but just love this. And I will say, when it comes to these Lego specials, I found I enjoy the trailers way more than I actually enjoy when I go to watch it. I'm far more disappointed than I was when I watched the trailer.
Yeah, they just pull all the best clips.
They put the best
them all
stuff in there.
you
Yeah,
know, exactly.
But this one does, of course, it seems entertaining, and again, I just absolutely love that this is where we continue to see the furthering of the sequels.
Yeah, and the continuation of the sequel trilogy.
It's just hilarious to me. But the premise behind this is they're going on the Galactic Star Cruiser, the Halcyon. So, which is the hotel that you can stay in at Disney World.
If you're not a middle class family.
Yeah. If you are a millionaire, you can go and stay at this hotel. And so Disney is just loving to put this Galactic Star Cruiser in like every medium they can.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, about everything so far has seen this. It's only a matter of time before we get it in a show and a video game. But books and comics have been just absolutely well. I mean, I guess a show right here we're getting it.
True, yeah.
So anyway, it's they're really wanting people to know about this thing, so they'll come and spend all their money.
Really trying.
And so this is another way for them to do that. But also, it does kind of appear they're gonna have like stories though set in different periods of Star Wars at the same time, like kind of like they did with
the last one.
Last one.
Yeah.
And so what that does, it opens up for just all kinds of different characters.
Right.
And so if you go and see this trailer, you'll see there's some pretty great stuff in there. I had a big smile on my face while I was watching it. I enjoyed it.
It's so dumb, but I love it.
Yeah, it's so dumb, but it's fun. And this is one of those things that I'll absolutely sit down with my daughter and watch, and we'll just have a good time with it.
Oh yeah, so,
absolutely. So definitely check that out, and we'll review it just because when it comes out, we'll
why
talk
not?
About it. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about the implications on sequel trilogy lore.
Yeah, like what's next for Rey Skywalker. We'll
exactly.
The stuff that you guys really care about.
Yeah, the pressing issues.
Yeah, like what's Rose up to now. I know you guys are dying to know.
Everyone's attention is on this right now.
Everyone's dying to know will Rose and Finn get back together?
Did she say what she loves? Keep your eyes and ears open for that if it's something you want. It is the next piece of Star Wars film / TV show, whatever you want to call it, that is coming out. So it is it's on its way.
Yeah, and what's coming very soon after that
is Andor. Ooh. Yes. So, well, of course, we'll talk about that. As
Bad
it
Batch
comes
season 2 is coming sometime.
Yeah,
during that too. Right?
I have to look at the diagram thing we have,
I have to look at it.
Those three are very close to each other.
They're all bunched up together. It's
right,
gonna be a fun time.
Right. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to our rumors. So we only have one this week, but it is a pretty interesting one. So the rumor is that Cameron Monaghan is getting a Star Wars show. So you may be thinking, who is Cameron Monaghan? Well, that was actually the mocap and voice actor for Cal Kestis in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So that is the game that came out in 2019, where you get to play this new character 6 years after Order 66, and you play as this Padawan that is kind of trying to survive on his own, right? His name's Cal Kestis, and very, very, very cool game. But again, Cameron Monaghan was the one who did the mocap and the voice acting for this character. The fact that this rumor is stating that he's going to get a Star Wars show, it's trying to leave it ambiguous, but I mean, the only thing that we know of Cameron Monaghan in Star Wars is Cal Kestis. So
yeah, this rumor came from somebody that I really enjoy listening to and trust, Christian Harloff.
Oh, really?
He's actually the one that reported this first. He said he had somebody tell him that he really trusts that, and he said he did say, like, this is a rumor,
right?
So don't
ride to the bank here.
This is a rumor. Yeah. This is nothing set in stone. Right. but that he had been approached to star to play in a live action Star Wars. So there's kind of a lot to unpack with this. So let's talk about what we know first. We know he played in Jedi Fallen Order. We know he's coming back to be in the sequel, Jedi Survivor, which we know is set during the same year as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I just want to note that. We know that, of course, he did the mocap, everything for it. So, like, it's him. So
Yeah.
he easily could be in live action.
Oh, yeah, easily. And he's already an actor and stuff like that. So, I mean.
Right. So, the big question would be, well, how do you use him when you're trying to also do a video game series with him? How do you use him without kind of messing up learning new narrative and stuff from the video games?
Right,
and I think here's where I think this is going. I don't think this means the next Disney Plus series is Cal Kestis, blah blah blah, or even Jedi blah blah blah. I don't think it's a continuation of what we've seen in the video games. I think he is going to guest star in another series.
Yeah, it very could be. Yeah,
that is where I'm leaning towards in this. I don't think wherever we get him is going to be his next story. I think he's only going to guest star in something else, or be a part. Maybe he's in the full series of whatever it is, but it's not his story.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Yeah.
I think that is where we'll head with whatever this may be.
And here's the thing: we have plenty of shows that are coming out already that are post Order 66 and kind of fit around that timeline. We have Bad Batch season 2, which I'm not saying he's going to be in that, but I'm saying that theoretically we could somehow fit him in that. Andor, like I said, it's already produced and stuff like that, but that fits somewhere around the timeline of Jedi Fallen Order. And like I said, in theory, I mean, I don't think this is it, but you could skip way ahead of time to the Ahsoka series, and him being older and stuff. But then that kind of spoiled the second game though too. If he's like, oh, he does survive, or whatever.
Well, again, that's kind of another thing, right? Now, you would assume by the time whatever he is in does come out, the video game will be done, finished.
Yeah.
You'll probably have already played through it, I would assume. Because if they're just approaching him now, it's going to be a while before whatever this is a scene. Out of the series we know are happening, if I were to put money down on what I think what it appear in, I would say it's Andor season 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
The time period fits. Again, it's in that in between 3 and 4. So, of course, it would fit for him to be in that. We know that the Andor series is going to be kind of building the rebellion, right? We got Mon Mothma. Yeah. We got, of course, we have Andor, and I think through the series, we're going to see the rebellion being built. They're using it as kind of, I think that's really what the series is about more than anything. I don't think they're really saying that just yet, but I think that's really what the series is. And so with that, I think there is room to see people that we do know, such as I think it's a given Bill has to be in this, right?
Yeah.
Bill has to be in Andor. He's got to be in it.
Well, and again, it would be a really nice callback to characters that are already established, that we already know, which Andor has been established for a little while now, right? Because of Rogue One and stuff. But it's just like it just gives that kind of legitimacy to the show. And again, at the beginning of the rebellion, it just makes sense that he's a part of that.
And maybe even a young Leia is going to be back in it. It's possible.
It could be. Yeah, you never know.
I think we could get after the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and the hints at a couple of different names that we know, such as Quinlan Vos.
Yes.
I could see Quinlan Vos coming to Andor.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're dealing with the path where they're essentially like smuggling Jedi, trying to like get him out of the in hiding. Like we could have something that could play into Andor at some point. You could have characters like Quinlan Vos appear again for the first time. People would be really excited.
Oh yeah.
You could have someone like Cal Kestis show up. You could have Ahsoka show up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could do with that.
We know Ahsoka was helping the early rebellion, as she had a nickname. They called her Fulcrum.
Fulcrum, yeah.
And so again, like when I think about these potential characters and stuff, it gets me more excited for what I think Andor can be.
Right.
Now, in the end, it could just be focused on Andor and not tell any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think they're really but for me, when they say Mon Mothma is a main character in this show, that starts to really make my brain work here and think like, okay, there's more to this. This isn't just a Cassian Andor show. I think that it's more than that, and they're just using Andor's name for the
right.
But
yeah, I agree.
So kind of got on a little bit of a tangent there, but going back though, again, I think that's where we could potentially see Cal Kestis is like in a season 2 of Andor. I don't think it would be in season 1 because if they just approached him recently, then
yeah, unless it's just work. a false.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just saying what you're saying.
But again, this could be something completely new. And if it is, there's, I mean, it's hard to even speculate. There's a billion different ways that they could, a billion different characters they could choose from to include him in. Again, we don't know how long he survives.
Yeah, exactly.
And that also is a big thing about, we don't know when it comes to like sequel trilogy or even original trilogy. We don't know where Cal Kestis is. We don't know if he's alive, if he's dead. We don't know yet. And so as we do learn more about this character, we'll be able to make better ideas of what this could mean. But I personally, I like to think maybe he does live into the sequel trilogy. Why not?
Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be very cool.
I would love to get to a point where let's bring Rey back, okay? Let's bring Rey back, and let's have Rey, Ahsoka, Cal Kestis, Quinlan Voss.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you got a Jedi Temple, okay?
Right, exactly.
And it's like,
which I know Quinlan would be pretty old by that point. You know, I mean, I would think so anyway.
Let me think about this here. So, how old do you think he is in the Clone Wars?
I mean, I'd say like early 30s, maybe.
Yes, he'd be really old.
Yeah, but then again, I mean,
so maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, he's not human though, right? Because he's like
no, he's not
near human.
You're right. He's near human.
Yeah.
So aging could be different.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know if they have anything about that species as far as aging goes. But now Cal would be. I mean, it'd be doable, right?
He'd be old, but I mean, he'd be doable.
Man, but he would. Yeah. He could, and then you
Ahsoka would be even older than him.
Well, yeah, but Ahsoka is a
Targaruda.
Yeah, so like. Aging is different. They can get away with
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, when it comes to aliens, they can say like whatever. We'll just be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
as long as they haven't like shown us something different beforehand. Then,
exactly.
So I think I like to believe Ahsoka is alive and well come the end of the sequel trilogy, and most likely we're gonna get something about Ahsoka after the sequel trilogy, like eventually. But just because Dave Filoni won't be able to help himself. Is that my uncle
Mikey
knowing?
Yeah, perfect timing.
He loves to do it during our podcast
every time.
What's funny? It's not even the same day this time. It's a different day.
He just senses it somehow. He just knows.
I know. I do appreciate him doing it though.
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't. It has no benefit to me. So.
No benefit. Yeah. Anyway, so. As I said a lot of stuff there, but there's a lot of opportunities with this involved, and I know people want Cal Kestis in live action. People really like Cal Kestis.
Oh yeah,
like I'm not like a huge Cal Kestis fan personally. I mean, I think he was great in the game and stuff, but I'm not like. I don't hold him to
he's like my favorite character in the whole world.
But there's a lot of people that really
bizarre
like
to
Cal
me.
Kestis.
But yeah, I mean, cool, so, good for them. You know.
Yeah. So again, they're gonna reap the benefits of that, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna milk Cal Kestis as long as that's a little weird to say, but anyway.
And let's move on.
Okay, so that's the only rumor that we had. We spent a lot of time on it, so that's okay. But we're gonna go ahead and go into our upcoming releases. And I'm going to go ahead and give you like 2 weeks of releases since we'll be going back into our regular schedule after, what it's supposed to be our regular schedule.
Right? Yeah.
which means next week you will be getting our Let's Play of Star Wars Lego. So, but this is what we got coming up. First of all, what I want to tell you all about, and I am very excited for this, and that is Shadow of the Sith, releasing on Tuesday. This is the new adult novel that we've talked about before on the podcast, but it is going to be it's going to be set 21 years after A New Hope. So this is getting closer to the sequel trilogy, but not there just yet.
Yeah.
So this is an older Luke with an older Lando, and they're going to be, and also this is what's going to include Rey's parents, and we're actually going to learn a lot about Rey's parents.
Oh, okay.
And so
Very
just a lot of interesting stuff that's going to happen. That's going to be dealing with Exegol, all those things.
Very interesting.
So I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of answers with this novel that we've kind of wondered about for a long time. I think it might help piece some things together for the sequel trilogy. So very excited for this one. And you can guarantee when that does come out, I'll be reading it, and we'll talk about it and what we've learned from it. Probably at least a couple weeks after it's been released.
Right,
but we will have a review on that, so stay tuned. And then on June 29th, we have 2 new comic releases. We have Dr. Aphra issue 21 and Han Solo and Chewbacca issue number 3. The Han Solo and Chewbacca series has been interesting because it actually is including a storyline about Han Solo's dad. So if you've ever been intrigued by Han Solo's father, you can read the Han Solo and Chewbacca series. Then on July 6th, which is that next Wednesday, we have the Halcyon Legacy issue number 4. This is their comic series.
Just another one more.
Just do whatever they can to convince you to go spend all your money. That's also going to be the day that the Mandalorian comic series is going to start, which is a season 1 adaptation. So you can check that out on July 6th.
Very cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into our penultimate section here. We're going to go ahead and get into our community discussion. So as many of you probably already know, we like to, every podcast, have a section where we reach out to you all and ask a question each week. And then whenever you guys answer, we go ahead and discuss that on air and then maybe share our thoughts. So the community discussion question this week is, now that the Kenobi limited series is over, do you hope to see a second season? And if so, what do you think it will be about? So we do have, let's see here, 4 answers, and most of them are pretty similar in their consistency here, or in their consensus, excuse me. They're very similar in their consensus. Corey Allen Y says, there is no need for a second season. The ending was amazing, the fan service was on point, and I'm truly happy with the whole series, and it blew my mind. Let's see here. Alex, let me read that one first. Alex Mason says, I know that money is going to drive the decision and not story. So unfortunately, we will probably have a season 2, but I personally think it would be a disservice to this season if there was a second. The only thing I would be interested in seeing is Kenobi's interaction with, spoiler alert, Qui-Gon. And then Ethan Stewart says, I see no need for a second season. The ending tied into A New Hope perfectly. But if they did end up making another season, I would be still happy and would want to see more of Owen and Beru's relationship with Luke and them keeping him safe from different threats. I'd also love to see Obi-Wan being trained by Qui-Gon on how to become a Force spirit. A live-action version of Obi-Wan's fight with Maul from Rebels would be pretty awesome, too. So we have one more, but basically those are the consensus there. It's like a lot of people are thinking, we don't want a season 2, and a couple of them are saying we don't want it, but it's very possible that we are going to get one. So let me stop there for 2 seconds, and I have more comments and stuff, and we have one more answer we're going to get to, but just one little answer I would have there is that, yeah, I do think that initially this was, we know it was a limited series. The whole point was that it was supposed to be only this and nothing more. And yeah, I think as we will see, and we're going to talk about more, as we see in the finale, they're really leaving it open-ended, because they knew, like, this is supposed to be only 6 episodes and that's it, but like let's leave it open-ended just in case it goes well. And the fan reaction has been really good, and I know that Ewan and Hayden both are interested in coming back, so it is definitely possible, just like Alex said, right, that money is going to drive the decisions, and Disney always likes to milk everything for its worth. So yeah, I mean, it is very possible we're going to get one. But the last answer we have is from Greg Stewart, who says, I just want to see Darth Vader hunting down Jedi. So exactly, and so that's another thing too, and I've heard some people say this, and I'm kind of, I can see both sides of it, but instead of having a strictly like, hey, this is the follow-up, this is season 2, no, maybe like another limited series that's following the same characters and having Hayden and all them in it, but like it's more like, okay, instead of Kenobi, this is Vader. Now, there's a lot I have to say towards that comment. But before we get into that, let's get to that first part first, and I'll bounce it to you, Drew. So what are your thoughts? Do you think there's going to be a second season? Do you want a second season? And if you do think there's going to be one, what do you think it's going to be about?
So based on what I'm hearing so far, it sounds very, very likely we're getting a second season. Based on what the actors have said, what Kathleen Kennedy has said, what the director has said, they all basically they said the numbers have went up just crazy with this show,
right?
I just don't know that Disney can resist doing a second season. There's too much money.
It's just like a T-bone.
There's way too much money sitting there. That's possible for them in this show. So I don't know that they can sit it down and say, nope, that's all we're doing. I don't know that they can do that. Now, when it comes to, do I think there should be, I have to lean towards no.
Right. I know we're both on the same page, and we're very torn about that answer. Right?
I'm very torn, and the reason I'm torn is, yes, I love the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love Ewan McGregor. But there's a couple different reasons here why I don't think a season 2 necessarily is the best idea. Number one, this story that we got by the end does wrap up the things I felt the series needed to hit.
Yeah, exactly.
It did. It reached those. The confrontation between Obi-Wan and Vader is what I think it needed to be, and it hit all the notes. I don't think they can see each other again.
I totally agree. So like I said, watching New Hope says, the last time I saw you, I was but the learner, but now I'm the master. So it makes sense that like he was still thinking in this moment that he was still the learner, because he just got his, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Jumping in. Spoiler alert, let's just say.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically, at this point, to talk about this stuff, we're kind of going to talk about.
Have to.
We're not going to get into as much details when we do start our review on it, but yeah.
Basically, Vader does get his butt whooped again, right? And it was like he still put up a good fight, but at the end of the day, Obi-Wan tapped into the Omega Power Force, whatever he did, he beat him with love and hope and peace and power.
He tapped into that sequel trilogy, Force powers.
Yeah. So hey, it's not by destroying what you hate; it's about protecting what you love. Anyway, best line in sequel trilogy. Anyway, so long story short, I don't know where I was going with that. I completely lost my train of thought. So yeah. I literally don't remember.
Completely lost
because I just got like ticked off at myself by quoting Rose Tico. So I literally forgot what I was going to say. So yeah, that's it.
Okay,
that's it.
Well, so going back to what I was saying is so I because I think that Obi-Wan and Darth Vader had their moment. I think that you can't have Darth Vader in a second season. And
right.
What could you possibly do?
Right. I'm about to say this, yeah.
To in a second season to feel like it can even compare to what you had in the first season.
Right. And
you already had the ultimate showdown. You can't do that again. And you can't there's no other character you can bring into this that will feel as Vader. As great and as whatever as Vader. There's not.
Exactly.
So that's the first big issue here.
Right.
Is it's going to have to be a smaller scale story, and it's not gonna. There's no way they can make it feel as grandiose.
Right, and because of that, are people going to want to watch it, or is it going to get as enough attention as it could, or is it going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth because they're like, they should have just left it with the first season, blah blah blah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say, because like, at the end of the day, the only way that they would be able to have really another season is that if pardon me, anyway, if Kenobi left, thank you, left Tatooine again, but like at this point, there's no reason why he should, and if he does, it just almost degrades the fact that he's there protecting Luke. Now we do see some stuff at this end scene.
Yeah, and we'll get to that.
But still,
yeah, and so here's my pitch. Okay, my solution to this. My recommendation, if I was sitting in Lucasfilm right now, because they're just like, what do we do? How do we do this? How do we keep making money off of this? Blah, blah, blah. How are we gonna... I would say we don't do a season 2.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do is we do utilize Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen.
Yes.
They both want to be in this, so we still utilize them. And how we do that is we bring Kenobi in as a guest in Andor.
Yeah.
Andor season 2.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It'd be a perfect time. Something big happens. They need something. And Bale goes, I know who we can bring in for this. And they bring in, you get some more Ewan McGregor. He does a quick mission. And we know that's more likely than it's ever been now after, again, they kind of set up to where, again, we'll talk more about it, but they kind of set up to where he might be more willing to leave Tatooine some.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do something like that. And then also you have Hayden Christensen, who can now play Darth Vader in any future series if they want.
Right. Yeah.
He did a great job. He was open to doing more of it. So again, Darth Vader could appear in Andor.
Mm-hmm.
Darth Vader.
Oh, yeah,
we already
easily
know that Hayden Christensen / Darth Vader's coming to Ahsoka.
Right.
At least, well, I guess we don't know, but we're pretty
as close
certain.
to knowing as we can. Right.
And so again, there's ways to do this without having to necessarily do a second season of Obi-Wan Kenobi,
but still have them.
But still include these characters. And here's another idea: bring Ewan McGregor in Ahsoka too.
Yeah.
Make him look older. Make him look a little more like help me out. What's his name? Just lost
Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
And make him look more like him, and let him keep on doing his thing as a Force ghost.
Right.
Why not?
I mean, yeah, why not?
No.
Yeah.
Everybody would love it.
Exactly.
And so that's my pitch. And here's the thing: we know we're gonna get more Luke stuff. Well, Luke talked to Obi-Wan as a Force ghost all the time.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So
yeah.
Again, there's so many opportunities we can have more.
They could easily tap into this if they really want to,
and get the fans excited and love it without having to do a second season and potentially just ruin a good thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of risk to be had in doing a second one. Now, one of our listeners there mentioned Maul, right? Doing a live action of Maul.
Oh, they would like to see that live action fight. Yeah.
So putting Rebels completely out of the picture, like let's just pretend Rebels never existed. My answer to what would you do in a second season would be Maul. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If Maul was still out there somewhere, second season, Maul would be the most likely character to deal with.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't think he's a bigger threat than Darth Vader, so you're still dealing with that. But I do think he's at least like it's a fight that makes sense,
right,
and could be interesting. Now, however, I think Rebels did it so perfectly.
Right.
Rebels did that so perfectly. It's such a beautiful thing. I mean, I adore.
Oh yeah.
That
executed
episode.
To perfection.
Executed to perfection.
Seriously. Yeah.
To me, and honestly, I mean, I know this is kind of like, well, that's what everybody says now, but that makes me feel like Dave Filoni should have control over what happens with Obi-Wan Kenobi because he got it. He got it.
Yeah.
He completely got it.
He understood the assignment.
Yes. And just watching that scene play out between Obi-Wan and Maul is just on another level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to see that be thrown to the side.
Exactly.
And I don't think they will, because...
And even a remake, I think it's just like, it was already done so well that even if they did the exact thing in live action, I don't think, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, even a remake would just be kind of weird. And for them to try to build a series around it doesn't make sense, because it was completely out of nowhere for Obi-Wan.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, finally Maul just kind of found out where he was, and then Maul goes.
Yeah.
But there's not like a way to build a series around that, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. We already know the story. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, what's the...
So I don't think that can be done because of Rebels, and I think, again, Rebels did it amazing. It doesn't need to be touched.
Mm-hmm.
So I say all of that stuff, and I apologize if you guys hear the weed eater in the background. But I say all of that stuff to say that, no, unfortunately, as much as it hurts me to say, I don't think we need a season 2.
Right.
And it kills me, because, like,
I know.
I want it. I want Obi-Wan. I want, but because of canon, because of the story we know, the canon story doesn't really allow for it. And you can say, well, people said this one doesn't. The story they were telling here is not. Well, no, they did it pretty great. They set as far as canon goes, it fits in pretty well.
It does. Yeah.
There's a couple of arguments that could be made. We'll get into those, that you could say maybe was not super great with canon, but I have some arguments as well against it. So we'll get to that. But overall, I mean, I can talk about Kenobi forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm ranting at this point.
You're just ranting.
I'm just ranting. I apologize, everybody.
So like I said, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this part. So I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with this. I'll just be very quick. But I do want to address this. Like I said, I don't want to leave him hanging. But like I said, Greg Stewart did say, I just want to see Darth Vader hunting down Jedi. And so, yeah, and that's another option too, is that we see another limited series, but it's focused on Vader or focused on another character in that same area. But the problem is with that, and cause I thought about that, I'm like, if you would have asked me if I wanted that 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said, oh yeah, no doubt about it. But after watching Boba Fett, I cannot say I do, because like Boba Fett, maybe not as much, but like Boba Fett, the appeal of Darth Vader is that he's quiet, he's silent but deadly, not a fart, but he is silent but deadly, and he he's mysterious, he's quiet, but when he does talk, and he's authoritative, and he just kills. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, that's Vader. But when you make an entire series about him, it would be difficult to not all of a sudden, like, especially because it's Disney, try to humanize him and make him not as much as the bad guy or whatever. And I think you could potentially get away with that a little bit if it was like early Vader, where he's still struggling with Anakin versus Vader type thing. But where we see him with the Inquisitorius, and when we see him especially in the Kenobi series, like, he's already gone. He's been gone for a while. He is straight up Vader. He just kills no feelings.
Yeah,
you know?
it's actually not until after Empire that we start to see Vader.
Yeah.
And you find this in the comics, that Vader is starting to have a change of heart. He's starting to see things differently.
Right.
It's really interesting. Again, the Darth Vader comics are just out of this world.
So good.
They're so good. It's really, and they do in a sense start to humanize Vader, but in a way that makes sense. And you start to see,
not just like, oh, he's actually a good guy, but he just
has
bad thoughts
he's
sometimes.
he's not a good guy, right? But but you start to see what they're doing in this story, and they've spread it out now for years at this point. Mm-hmm. But what they're doing is getting you to a place to where when he chooses to throw Palpatine down that
there's
thing,
a progression
of character there that when you get to that point, it goes, oh, well, it does make sense that he did that, because there's always been the argument, well, how all of a sudden, why did he all of a sudden he had this change of heart after all this stuff, and then he just decides to pick up Palpatine and throw him. Well, no, there was a long road to this.
And so again, so not to say I don't want that, Greg, because trust me, seeing Darth Vader hunt down Jedi, that would be amazing. But I just know with the experience that we've had with all these Disney shows, I just don't trust them to do it right. And the thing is like Drew said, we already have this story to some degree with the comics, and I know it's not on a public more public platform like Disney Plus, but we already have that. And another way that they got away with that is because with the Vader comics, it wasn't strictly about Vader. It was almost like Vader was in scenes with other people.
Exactly.
And
when it was just Vader, it would always be like just images.
Exactly. It wasn't him just thinking.
It wasn't him like talking out loud and like
exactly.
you most of the time you can't get in Vader's head, right?
Exactly.
Only his mannerisms is the only thing that really gives anything away.
Right.
It's just the way he stands or the way he's moving, the way he looks, different things like that. And that's kind of the mystery of Darth Vader. And so I'm 100% with you, Braxton. I don't think they can necessarily have a series that is Darth Vader because that would take away from the mystery of the character, take away from the that menacing aura of the character.
And we already saw, like I said, with Boba Fett, how many people were mad about that because they're like, this is not Boba Fett. This is not the character I fell in love with. So anyway.
Yeah, Boba Fett's a perfect example of taking away the mystery of the character, and most people weren't happy about it, about what it was.
Yeah.
Now with Vader, I think we got more Vader in the Kenobi series than we really have ever gotten. As far as as far as viewing goes, right? Like in a series or a movie even. And so with that, I think we got more of him talking and stuff. We got quite a bit of that.
Right.
But I think it was the exact right amount.
Right.
And I think if you had a series, it just would be too much. But let's continue to have Vader. But bring him in and as that
he's a part of something,
as that terror,
else.
That of something else where he shows up. And I think it's always the best way to use him.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we could talk about that forever. We're going to cut it short, but we would be remiss if we didn't discuss that to some degree. So great answers, guys. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We always love community discussion. It's super, super fun to hear from you all.
Yes, always one of our favorite parts to hear you guys, hear your thoughts, and to know that you guys still care about us. So.
Yeah, even to some degree, even to some modicum of a molecule of degree. Anyway, so we're gonna get into our final segment for this podcast, and that, of course, is our main topic. Where this episode we're going to be talking and reviewing the Kenobi finale. So that is Chapter 6 of the Kenobi's limited series. We're gonna go over that.
Oh, I had to say real quick.
Yeah.
Remember how in the last episode I told everybody to type out a number if they I don't even remember what it was. If they had gotten that far or something. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I had somebody text me that, so I felt pretty good about that. And somebody texted me the number.
One person.
It was Corey Wise. Corey Wise. He's been a good fan of ours.
Oh yeah.
He texted me that number.
I love it.
4456. That's what it was.
4456.
So yeah.
So dumb. I love it though. So anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna review that spoiler review of this episode. Go over the recap and go through it just kind of slowly. Since this is the finale, we want to take our time with it. We already know we're kind of running along with the time.
It's a special episode.
But it's a special episode, and not just a special episode. It is the finale of this long-awaited series. So we're gonna go over the episode and then kind of just wrap up with our thoughts of the whole series and all that good stuff. So what we're going to do is I actually have kind of a recap provided by tvline.com, and I'm going to read through this, and as we go scene by scene, we're going to go ahead and Drew's going to stop, and we're going to maybe talk about some like Easter eggs. We're going to talk about the implications, whatever.
Yeah, anything that comes to our minds as you read it, we'll jump into.
All right, so after the heroes evaded Vader's attack on Jabeam, Obi-Wan Kenobi's finale found the rebels running out of time, with the Empire hot on their tail and shields waning. Realizing this, Obi-Wan decides to buy everyone some time for repairs by facing Vader again, even if that might lead to his own death. Hugging Leia goodbye, Kenobi gives the young princess Tala's empty holster and promises her that he will come back.
Yeah, so I want to stop there. Do you think there was any meaning to the holster other than just like that was a new thing? Like, because I immediately started to like, okay, have we seen the holster before?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, did we see it as when Leia was older?
Yeah.
And
I don't recall anything like that.
Think so, right? Like, I think this is an entirely new thing. But do you think there's meaning behind that they're going to use later for Leia or somehow, or like? I didn't know if it was like the new dice situation with Han Solo, like how Luke gives Leia the dice in Last Jedi, and like 80% of people watching are like, wait, what do those dice mean?
Yeah. So this is the funny part is that this is Tala's, which is that random lady that helped them and then just blew herself up, and it's like we talked about this last episode. I could be wrong, but I believe it. And it's like, it was just so funny because it's this really random character who, yeah, I mean, she was awesome, helped with the path and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, why were they so emotional? Like, why was Kenobi like, no, no, no? You know, like, they met her like 2 seconds ago and they're like disconnected to her. So it's kind of weird. And also, like, he gives her this. So they're basically, in my mind, they're trying to make more of this character than what she really was. But here's my point. I don't necessarily think there's a specific call back with that holster. I think it's more of a symbol, right? Like, because he does say, Kenobi does say, here's this holster, and she's like, where's the gun or whatever. She's like, oh, you're 10 years old. I'm not going to give you, but you're not always going to be 10. And I think the significance is that just to show the follow-up that she's going to become kind of a fierce leader who fights and does all this stuff later on. It's kind of just showing that progression of like, she's a kid now, but eventually she's going to grow up in the original trilogy era and be this fighter. I think it's just more of like a symbology type thing. I don't know that though, because if it's not that, then I'm like, I don't know. I have no clue. So.
Yeah, it was just interesting because they really wanted you to think about that, and then at the end they bring it back.
She's wearing it. And they're like, "Oh, I like it."
But I have to say, I love the dialogue when he gives it to her because he gives it to her and she's like, "It's empty."
It's like, you're 10. I'm not gonna give you.
He's like, Leia, you're 10 years old.
I'm not gonna give you a blaster.
He's like, but then he goes, "But you won't always be."
Exactly. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
I love their interact. I love Obi-Wan and Leia's interactions in this episode.
It was really annoying in the first like couple episodes, but it got so much better as time went on. You know.
Did you watch that thing I sent you of Leia's scene from the first episode?
I don't think I actually did watch that one.
Are you kidding me? You didn't watch it? Okay, well, I'll share it with you later. No. I might see if I can share it with you guys on our social media. We'll see. But it's really good. It's really good.
Is something you want to talk about? Or?
Well, I can tell you. It's not gonna be as funny though if you just hear me say it. But
okay. Well,
it's the chase scene.
Yeah.
The notorious chase scene.
Yeah,
but they make it black and white and they speed it up and they have like old like the old like Three Stooges type music in the background.
Like
and they're like running. It's awesome. I'll show it to you. It's good. It's really good.
So anyway. So he gives the young Princess Tala's empty holster and promises her that he will come back. So on Tatooine, so it kind of switches over. So on Tatooine, Owen and Beru receive a heads up from a friend receives a heads up from a friend who had been grilled by Reva, and she's headed their way. Owen warns Luke to stay put and hide since Tuskens are raiding farms in the area again. But if anything goes wrong, he needs to run. So I mean, it doesn't say it in too much in depth. I'm going to say right here, but basically Reva, as we saw in Chapter 5, she sees the broken up hologram of Bail Organa, basically mentioning that the other child is on Tatooine, and so I'll just go ahead and say this. So this is kind of skipping ahead, but basically there's this conflict with Reva where she's trying to kill Luke to get revenge on Anakin. At what point how does she know that Luke is Anakin's son? That Anakin even has children? How do we know this? Who is she? Because she's like trying to get revenge on who? She never says Anakin, but we know there's revenge on Anakin.
I think they're just implying that she pieced it together based off of what she heard over the radio.
Yeah.
Over the comms or whatever. Like she heard the.
It was I feel like that could have been explained way better. But anyway. But so long story short, like I said, that little bit of a plot hole in my opinion, but. So basically, she sees that broken up hologram, so she heads to Tatooine, and she's basically interrogating some of these people.
And they clearly tried to make some, like, Anakin, like, they tried to kind of make her look like Anakin in this.
I noticed that.
You noticed that?
With, like, the long robe, and she's, like, has her hand, like, arms crossed.
They really tried to kind of bring callbacks to that. And I think there's a reason for that, which at the end of the episode when they talk, Obi-Wan talks to her. I think there's a reason why they did it.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
They're kind of mirroring things here.
So, like I said, the guy she interrogated, he ends up telling her about Owen and Beru, but he goes to them and says, "Hey, I had to tell her this, so she's going to kill us, whatever, and so you need to prepare." So they go back to their home, and they're kind of preparing and telling Luke to hide.
Yeah, and Owen's like, Owen's like, well, we just need to get out of here or whatever, and then Beru like opens up a secret compartment of guns, and, and you can see Owen's eyes like widen. I've seen two different interpretations of this. Some people think they had those stocked and hidden and ready.
Yeah.
But to me, it looked like Owen didn't know they were there.
Yeah. Whoa.
Like she had them and he didn't know.
It's one of those two things. Either she
or
had
he
him and didn't know,
shocked that she was wanting to do
She
it
was willing. He was shocked that she was willing to fight like that.
It's probably more likely that that's what it was going on there. But I can't help but think during this, I'm like, man, it's like I feel so bad for Owen and Beru because they do all this stuff for Luke, and in the end, like they're still gonna burn
alive.
They're gonna burn alive for this kid.
Yeah, and it's like nothing really ends up coming of it. So
it really sucks for them.
Really rewarding their efforts.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that, and they're getting prepared for her to come. So the scene cuts again, and it goes to Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan attempts to commune with Qui-Gon one more time, saying that he needs to face Anakin, and basically he's looking for advice.
Yeah, I really thought Qui-Gon was going to show up.
I really thought he was too, and he doesn't. And it says, whether he dies or his former apprentice does, this ends today. Roken is there to see him off, reminding the Clone Wars general that he doesn't have to do this. But this is between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, so there's no turning back. So basically, Obi-Wan gets into his like little escape pod thing and flies off and heads towards a planet to basically distract Vader, because he knows that Vader's so what is it called, bullheaded or whatever, where he like if he sees Obi-Wan going off, like he's gonna chase him and leave everybody else. So the Grand Inquisitor notes an escape craft leaving the transport with one person on board, but urges Vader to continue pursuing the rebels since this is their chance to wipe them out entirely. Vader, though, is laser-focused on Kenobi and orders his ship to be prepared. As Obi-Wan braces for what he believes will be their final showdown, they will, of course, meet one more time in A New Hope. He finds Lola in his pocket. Leia must have hidden the droid while hugging him. Clever girl.
Yeah, which that was a sweet thing, because we know that she really cares about that little droid. And
she was sharing it with these kids. It was a cool moment. She was sharing with these kids that were scared, and she came up to Obi-Wan and said, I'm letting Lola play with them because it helps them when they're scared. And Obi-Wan says, you might have to let me borrow her.
Yeah, because he says something basically implying he's scared too.
Kind of like joking but serious at the same time.
But then she really does give it to him.
And she gives it to
so it's actually pretty touching.
That's pretty sweet. So, following Obi-Wan's dropship to a barren moon, Vader once again comes face to face with his former master. Obi-Wan whips out his his I have to cut this out. Hold on. Well, I'll have to go from the top here. Hold on. Why do they have to say it like that? Why do they have to say it like that? Okay, hold on.
Okay. I don't want to have to cut it out.
You'll do whatever you need to do. Okay, let's restart this. Following Obi-Wan's dropship to a barren moon, Vader once again comes face to face with his former master. Obi-Wan whips out his blue lightsaber and utters the same thing he told Anakin just before their battle on Mustafar at the end of Revenge of the Sith. It says, I will do what I must. But then, very baller, Vader says, then you will die. Then they clash again.
Yeah, which when he says that in A New Hope, he says... what does he say? Or no, not in A New Hope. In Revenge of the Sith, he says,
yes.
Something about trying.
Yeah, it's like I'll do what I must, and I think it's exactly that. Like, no, that's what you will die. You will try. That's what he says. Like,
he says,
I'm like 9 years like,
and
I'll
then,
do what I must. You will try.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, but this one he says, then you will die. So it's a bit of a progression there between Anakin and Vader there.
Yeah, and so they're fighting, and of course, shout out to Obi-Wan doing his showing some Form 3 in such beautiful manner.
So good.
Getting to see him strike that pose again is a beautiful moment. I just absolutely adore it. And also I love Rebels because it does show this pose.
Yeah.
But then it also shows where he grows from it,
and forms to his new new stance. So
that.
Good.
Anyway, so we see him do that, and so they're fighting for a little bit here, which I love this.
It's so good.
I love this entire fight scene. One of my all-time favorites now.
Oh yeah,
maybe my favorite. Honestly,
yeah.
Very, very good stuff. Seeing Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader. I mean,
it's so good. It's so good. So they're starting to fight again, but then it cuts and it goes back to Tatooine, right? So it's at the same time Reva arrives at Owen's farm in pursuit of Luke. A prepped in position, Owen and Beru fire blasters, which she deflects. Her usually neat braids now loose and slightly disheveled after her being unceremoniously dismissed by Vader. Luke takes off running, and the former Inquisitor chases the boy to the dunes. So again, there's this little interesting fight scene where between, like I said, Owen and Beru.
This is where you get very close to some continuity. Really,
I know what you're about to say.
Really close to breaking continuity here, because Luke Skywalker can't just see lightsabers whipping around. Okay?
Exactly.
And so I think their intentions here is that they told him it was Tusken Raiders, right? And then I think that they're showing when she comes in with the lightsaber, he's already going up the ladder and he's running. So I think what they're trying to get away with here is that he never sees her. He thinks it's a Tusken Raider following him, and he never sees the lightsaber. I think that's what they want us to believe.
I'm 90% sure that when they're up in the dunes, though.
But yeah, there's different moments where he could have seen, and again, if he did, then it doesn't really work in canon. And so that's kind of I know I've out of everything in this episode, I have heard some people kind of talk bad about this aspect of it, because again, it's kind of I don't know if this works. This is really close to crossing the line.
How do we go from a kid who gets chased by an Inquisitor with a lightsaber and he's about to die to fast forward later on when he's supposed to be more mature and he's wanting to go to Tosche Station for power converters and hang out with his friends, and he's just
and shoot womp rats.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So it's it is an interesting.
Yeah, but however, at the same time, he's aware of the dangers of Tusken Raiders, and so that could be more believable. The Tusken Raider invasion type deal, I could see that more. But so I'm choosing that's what the direction they went with it. But yeah, it's kind of kind
of weird. Yeah,
a little close.
Right. All right. So that, like I said, that she's chasing him into the dunes, and that's where it cuts back to the moon. Vader notes that Obi-Wan's strength has returned, but the weakness still remains. Baller quote.
Yeah.
The Sith Lord then uses the Force to bury Obi-Wan. So first of all, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. So literally, he's they're fighting. He's kind of beating up on Obi-Wan. He's doing really well. He's got his Form 3 Ceresu. He's the master of this defensive form, and he's holding his own, but he's getting overpowered because he's afraid. He doesn't want to have to do this. And then something so baller that we've never seen before, really. I mean, we kind of have, but anyway. Vader just throws his hand into the ground and just starts crushing and crumbling the ground to this huge pit, which was just so cool.
And before that, though, we did see some other they started using the Force. At one point, Obi-Wan starts to break the pillar.
True.
the big whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it starts to fall. Darth Vader catches it, and then so they're both kind of holding it in the Force.
Right.
And at one point, again, this might all be kind of out of order, but I know at one point Darth Vader uses another rock to go swipe
his feet out from under. That was so cool. I forgot
about
that.
Obi-Wan has to hurry and roll and come back up, and then he chucks a rock straight at him, and Obi-Wan just uses a saber and cuts it in half.
Oh, dude, that was so good.
Really cool stuff. Nothing that crazy, but again,
stuff we've not really seen.
It's stuff that we've seen video games, comics, things like that, but we haven't seen a lot of it in live action.
This is exactly what I've been saying, though. Why on earth are people who have the Force and who are great fighters not using it more creatively. Holy moly.
In a battle.
And now we're seeing some of this, which is so cool. So anyway, so he crushes this pit into the ground, and he's just he puts his lightsaber, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that, but he's just taking both hands and just flinging rocks, like huge boulders, down on top of Kenobi, and I don't remember exactly what he says, but he's just like throwing him. It's so good.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see him do that. Like, the ground pound, and then seeing everything crumble and just showing him the power of the Force there, and then Kenobi's stuck under there.
Yeah. So it says he uses the Force to bury Obi-Wan under some rocks he has hurled, saying.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
He's saying, "Did you truly think that you could defeat me? You have failed, Master."
Yeah, and so whenever it does this part and it shows Vader, it's totally the thought in my mind was, oh, Vader's got the high ground. Like, that was what they were. And I wondered for a split second, I was like, is he gonna say, no, I have the high? But I was like, maybe that's too much. I'm kind of glad they did.
Too on the nose.
Yeah, a little too on the nose. I'm glad he didn't say it. But that was totally the framing of the scene. Like, that was what that was all about.
100%.
Is to show it. They kind of like had it like a down view, and you could see him like standing way up there, and like that was totally the point of it.
I mean, it would have been a little meta, but I still would have really enjoyed it.
It would have been a little cheesy. I would have loved it too, but anyway.
But Vader didn't kill his former master with the cave-in. Rather, Obi-Wan uses the Force to stop the rocks from crushing him. Fueled by memories of both Luke and Leia, he repulses them up and away, and then catches up.
Oh, and also, so Vader, you really thought just throwing those rocks down there was really gonna kill him, do the job?
Yeah. Which I know he's seen him, he's weakened, right? But even he admits, like, your strength has returned to you, And it says that their lightsaber battle continues. But that was so baller. Like, he just uses the Force and just boom, just flings those rocks out of there. So good.
So that was our first, like, okay, all right, here we go.
Something's happening here.
And so then, like, Vader shows Vader walking. He's like, you can tell he senses him or something. And then all of a sudden, Obi-Wan's just there,
right behind him.
Yeah, right behind him.
He flips around and like blocks it. But but all of a sudden now, it's not even just the Force, right? Like, all of a sudden, like, he's like going hyper mode with Ceresu, and he's just like whooping up on him, and we're seeing hits, and then I can't remember if he hits it, like punches or whatever, but like his mechanical chest piece, I can't remember, like he's like punching or something.
He uses the hilt of his lightsaber.
Yeah, just bam, bam.
He's
bam.
using he's using the hilt and just smashing it into like the life support.
And he's like,
so what I think is really cool about this moment is, of course, again, we've not really seen this, and you have to think about it from an outside perspective here. People that see Darth Vader, they don't know that Darth Vader is an injured
right, this is a health suit.
They don't know that he's like a half dead man inside, right? They don't know he has health issues. They don't know he's blah 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 blah. So people don't ever like necessarily go for that, but Obi-Wan knows.
He knows.
Obi-Wan knows. And so that was such an amazing moment where he gets up close to him, just boom, smashing into that. It was so good. Oh my goodness.
So it says, and then so it continues. Obi-Wan fights with everything he's got and eventually slices Vader's helmet open with the lightsaber, which is an interesting parallel.
Before that, he slashes the back of him.
Oh, true.
So he makes one slash in the back, like towards like his like
the nape of his neck. Yeah.
And so then he's like, and he starts to like fall. He's like starting to fall down and stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, because at one point, again, I know all this is like jumbled up. At one point, he also uses the Force and just shoves him way back.
Yeah, that's true. Because they like lock up and he just goes. Poof.
Yeah, and shoots him way back. And then I was like, oh boy, here we go. And
sorry, get a phone call.
and I think it's then is when he raises all the rocks up. He starts raising all the rocks.
Do we already get past that, or is there already happening?
No, because he doesn't cut his helmet till after that.
Okay, yeah, like why they don't mention this? But yes, like he's fighting him, and it was so baller. We've never seen anything like this, especially with Obi-Wan.
He's raising all the rocks.
Like tons of rocks.
We have seen Rey raise a bunch of rocks.
Yeah, at least with him,
but,
we haven't.
But again, she was like, it's
moving stuff.
But he just like raised up both of his arms, and they're just shooting at. I was just going crazy.
And like he blocks a couple, but he's just getting pelted.
He's just getting pelted, absolutely pelted.
It was
so good, and it's showing Obi-Wan Kenobi as he truly is, one of the greatest Jedi of all time.
He's so true.
And so he's just letting him fly, right? And he's just kind of standing there. And and it's then, let's see, I'm trying to remember how this goes from here. I don't remember exactly how he gets back up close to him, but he gets back up close to him, and he does like a little like jump thing.
Yeah,
and that's when he slashes his helmet.
So he eventually slices Vader's helmet and eventually slices Vader's helmet open with his lightsaber. The move weakens Vader, who gasps for air with half of his face exposed. It is then that Kenobi sees his Padawan's face for the first time in years, and he says, "Anakin," he calls out. And again, so like I said, I was gonna say earlier, it's kind of a cool parallel. That first realization. I mean, he already knew, but that first realization that Anakin, Vader, Anakin was that there was a slash in his helmet, just like with Ahsoka years later, when she realizes Anakin's Vader and she slashes his helmet open. It's kind of a cool,
other side of his helmet.
Kind of a cool parallel.
She slashes the right side of his helmet.
Yeah, kind of a cool parallel.
And when she does and sees him, she says Anakin.
She says the same thing. So baller.
And
so baller.
And so in this moment here, this is such a heartbreaking moment. Just the entire thing here is heartbreaking. Of seeing Obi-Wan, see Anakin, and he apologizes, right? He starts saying like, "I'm sorry," and I'm sorry for all of it. And it's just like absolutely, I was just like blinking tears.
I know. I was like, oh my god. It says it right here, through his damaged
dialogue.
Some of it. So through his damaged vocoder, we hear Hayden Christensen's voice distorted. Vader tells his former master that Anakin is gone. I am what remains. Obi-Wan tells him he's sorry for what happened in the past, but Vader dismisses it. I am not your failure. You did not kill Anakin Skywalker. I did, he notes, before vowing to destroy Obi-Wan in kind.
Yeah, and so, you see Anakin here. Obi-Wan is you can see the tears in his eyes as he's saying all this stuff. Just fantastic.
So good. Great acting.
Yeah, phenomenal job by Ewan McGregor here.
Yeah, easily.
Honestly, also Hayden Christensen, because you can see it, and I think really even the colors of the lightsabers are playing into this.
That first interaction
is some blue with when it shows Anakin, and he says the Anakin is gone and what remains, but you can see, to me, you could sense the sadness there. It's like Anakin was coming out a little bit, even when he said
just
that.
A little bit. Yeah,
and there was that blue there. And of course you're getting the mix of Hayden and then James Earl Jones.
Yes,
absolutely cool,
awesome.
So cool.
Awesome.
As that like the vocoder or whatever is breaking, so neat. But then when he goes, "I am not your failure, Obi-Wan," and it turns red, and you can even see a little bit of like a smile on the side of his coming from his mouth as he says this part.
Yeah,
he goes, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did," and the same way I will destroy you. And
man,
what a moment! It just like gave me chills. It's so just creepy too.
I know.
Dark, the way he does it there.
Yeah,
and that I think is when, Obi-Wan, he does realize he's gone. Yeah.
And
that's when he says...
It says right here, realizing that his friend truly is dead, Kenobi tells the broken man before him, this is a cool tie-in. Goodbye, Darth.
Yes, and I loved that moment.
Because we like in New Hope, he calls him Darth, and we're like, we know that's a title rather than a name. Mm-hmm. Why would he call him that? And at the time, we know that it was supposed to be his name. Anyway, long story short, very cool little tie-in to like the continuity tie-in.
Yeah, just to keep continuity there. Yeah. Even though it still doesn't make any sense, but
it still don't make sense why he called him that, but yeah.
But I like that they did it. Yeah.
And it says, through an enraged voice, a weakened Vader calls out after Obi-Wan and collapses to his knees, steadying himself against the rocks.
I got to stop here and say, I'm not a big fan of the fact that Obi-Wan just walks away and leaves him there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because here we've had issues with Obi-Wan. People have had issues with Obi-Wan leaving Anakin sitting there and didn't finish him off the first time around.
Yeah.
And now he's had a second opportunity.
And that was his thing, is he regretted he had to do it, but he regretted that he couldn't, he didn't finish it through.
And clearly Vader is not going to die from this interaction.
Yeah.
I don't think he thought Vader was going to die from this, right?
Yeah.
He lets him live. And what's crazy about that is you just let
the most notorious villain.
This guy's going to continue to kill tons of people, children,
Exactly.
all this
Exactly.
stuff, and you just walked away from it, and you could have ended this right
could have saved
here
so many
and right
lives.
now,
Yeah.
and you didn't.
So, and again, that was one thing. Yeah, I was like, what is going on? Like, I get like he can't do it or whatever, but I just wish there would have been something where he escaped, or something where he get like a battalion of stormtroopers come in to save him, or something like that, where like he didn't just walk away.
He didn't just walk away.
Like he thought he was dead, or he couldn't kill him.
And this is where I come back to, as much as I have enjoyed this episode and parts of this series, overall, I think that the series is pretty rough. And I think that there's a lot of weird writing choices.
Very weird.
A lot of strange directions they went. A lot of weird cinematography. A lot of honestly, even music. I mean, can you even remember anything about the music during the entire battle?
No.
No. Now,
I do actually.
Oh, you do?
I do. And I remember thinking, this is the most janky, anticlimactic music compared to Duel of the Fates. I remember thinking, like, this is like literally. I'm not trying to diss whoever made it, and I'm not trying to be a hater, but like I remember thinking, like, this is like really poorly produced music.
And this is the way I look at it. And in all of the great Star Wars battles through the history, there's always this like
Epic
iconic score that you remember to this day.
Exactly.
And that added to it, right? And made it what it is. I didn't have that feeling with this fight. I love the fight, but the music was not there.
And that could have cemented that into history. Like, that's the greatest thing ever.
I mean, they could have even reused one. Again, you know, like we have said many times, use
Duel of the Fates.
Duel of the Fates, or even the Battle of the Heroes, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Anything like that would have worked and would have been very dramatic and would have really pulled at the heartstrings.
Pull back to the prequel trilogy.
They didn't do it, and it's so just weird. Like, because of that, I felt like that was really lacking.
Yeah.
But again, like this part, you know, Kenobi clearly has to leave Darth Vader alive, and Darth Vader has to leave Kenobi alive.
Right.
Okay?
We know that has to happen.
We knew that, but they could have set it up better on the way they leave. Listen, I love everything about this battle. I love all of it, but the fact that Kenobi just walks away and leaves him alive again, not how they should have ended it.
No,
they should not have done it that way, because that's going to be an issue with people. And to me, even to me, like I'm still kind of struggling with it. Like, why did he do it? And I know they're saying, well, I know the main thought right now that I'm hearing is like, he went to go and take out Anakin because he felt like Anakin was because of him. Like so he was going to go and finish the job. But when he found out Anakin was gone, it was no longer because of him or whatever. So he just, okay, well, I'm going to step out of it. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense that Obi-Wan would do that. And Obi-Wan knows he's going to continue to go and kill a bunch of people. So again, it just doesn't make any sense.
It's a dumb decision.
Unless they want you to think he thought Vader was going to die. Like Vader was going to...
Because he heard his life support,
maybe. So maybe he thought Vader was really going to just collapse over and die, and no one was going to come help him.
They could have at least insinuated that more, if that's the case.
And so... But I don't think that was what happened. I don't think Kenobi thought he was going to die.
Right.
And so then, okay, well, so was it a moment of weakness and where Kenobi's just like, I can't do it, and so I'm just going to leave? I don't know. I don't know, but they in the end, they should have come up with a better way of this department. Like everything else was great, but they should have found a way to close this up better than what they did, in my opinion. So, anyways, we can move on.
Yeah, I was a little passionate about that.
I have some.
No, I totally agree. I'm on the same exact page. I thought it was really weird, but anyway, I'm not going to get too far into it. All right, so then Obi-Wan senses Luke in danger and speeds after the boy in his dropship. On Tatooine, Luke has fallen after being forced off a rocky ledge by Reva and sits unconscious. Oh, maybe that's how they got around it. Because I know because she ignites her lightsaber after he's laying there.
It's after he's laying there, yeah.
So he's unconscious first. There answers my question. All right, when Reva approaches him to go in for the kill, she sees herself at his age, and memories of Anakin slaughtering younglings in the Jedi Temple come rushing back. With her lightsaber raised, she finds herself now in Anakin's position. And it says Obi-Wan lands at Owen's farm and sees both Owen and Beru calling after Luke and prepares to search for him in the dunes. But Reva appears in the distance, returning with the unconscious boy in her arms.
Okay, before we get into this, let me stop right here and say that in the end, again, I wish this whole part didn't exist. Honestly, I wish the Reva thing didn't happen.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I didn't have, with what they did with Reva. Okay, fine. If I think it should have ended where it ended after Vader had stabbed her.
I agree.
And
yeah,
that should have been done. The fact that she goes and that's how you know we're doing a really long episode.
I know
today.
our music
just kicked in, and that's impressive. Okay,
yeah.
So
hour and a half. So
cool,
yeah,
cool.
And trucking.
Cool. Yeah, lots of entertainment for you guys here today.
Entertainment. That's one way to put it.
But I think that having her in this, and here's the thing. Whatever. I think it's kind of pointless, but here's what really bothered me about it is that we continued to cut away from the Vader and Kenobi fight to see what she was doing on Tatooine.
Exactly.
With Luke. And they didn't have the same type of intensity to it because
of course.
We already knew we already know happen with this. So
yeah.
So I really didn't like that. I wish they would have just cut it out completely. I have nothing good to say about it. I really don't. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. It is just like they're trying to push this character when it's really just hindering the story more than anything, in my opinion. But
and I sent it to you. I don't know if you watched it, but where they cut only they did just the pieces of Obi-Wan and Vader's fight. They cut out all the Reva stuff.
Yeah.
And they added more familiar Star Wars music to it.
Yeah,
and it's
that was
all
good.
Around a much better
It's very
watch.
good. Yeah.
You guys should look it
Very
up on
good.
YouTube.
So anyway, so she reports to Obi-Wan that she couldn't cut off Vader's offspring. That's a weird way to put it, but anyway. And as such, failed her dead friends. Obi-Wan doesn't see it that way, insisting she honored them and has given them peace. When Reva asks if she has become Darth Vader, Obi-Wan says no, that she has chosen not to be. And who she is now entirely up to her. Reva places her Inquisitor lightsaber in the sand, and Obi-Wan declares them both free. Fast forward about 30 years, there's going to be so many lightsabers just randomly strewn throughout the buried sands of Tatooine,
There's so many buried lightsabers out there.
It's General Grievous is just like, my collection!
Did I send you that video? I was sending you lots of videos here, apparently. The one with
that one's pretty good.
Where instead of Qui-Gon, it's General Grievous that's waiting for him at the end as a Force ghost.
Yes, it's so good.
It's good stuff.
So
General Kenobi.
If we have to have the Reva character, I do think that, this scene did help kind of redeem her a little bit. But the point is that her character was wholly unnecessary, in my opinion. And the fact is that even if they did want to have the story, because sure, a youngling from the temple growing up to be an Inquisitor who wants revenge on Vader, that is kind of a cool storyline. But the point is they didn't do enough with that. And 3/4 of the show, you're like, look at this horrible acting person whose character is annoying and it doesn't make any sense. And now at the very last 2, maybe 3, but I think more like 2 episodes of the show, finally we understand her motivations, and it kind of ties into it. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because that's what I was going to say at the end. But this is a reoccurring stinking formula with every time with a Disney Plus show, is that 3/4 of a show, it's usually not good. Usually the first half to 3/4 of a Disney Plus show is not good, and then all of a sudden, magically, in the last couple episodes, they tie everything together, and it's so amazing, it's so awesome, it's the best television you've ever seen in your life, and you're like, this is a terrible formula, because you're ostracizing enjoyment, essentially, of half the characters or half the storyline through most of the show, when you could have spread this out and introduced it more slowly rather than just jarring all of a sudden, and it's so good. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I have a kind of a big final closing statement on my feelings about Obi-Wan that I'll touch on once we wrap up everything.
We're getting close here. So, on Mustafar, Vader speaks to Darth Sidious through a hologram.
So awesome to see Darth Sidious here. Love getting all Palps back.
Palpatine.
I think, again, not having Palpatine show up in this would have been a missed opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ian McDermott, awesome as always, and it just makes sense for us to get a glimpse of him. But also has important meaning in my opinion. I'll give my thoughts on that here when we finish reading this.
So he speaks to him through a hologram. Sidious notes that Lord Vader seems agitated and wonders if thoughts of his old master have left him weakened. Vader insists that Kenobi now means nothing, and he only serves his new master. Cue the Imperial March as Vader sits on his lonely throne. So,
also good to get some familiar Star Wars music finally.
Yeah, finally.
It took the entire...
So let me pause for like 2 seconds and to go in line with this, but it's like an offshoot. Once the Mandalorian came through, right? Once the Mandalorian came through, they had this new style of music that was indicative to Mandalorian, and it fit. It made sense because Mandalorian was completely different than anything we've ever known or watched in Star Wars. But ever since then, every show that they come out with is all of a sudden they want to do that with everything. There's like unique music that's not inherently Star Warsy with every show. It's like, but this does not make sense. This is not the show to do it in. Mandalorian totally makes sense because it's something so different.
Right.
Boba Fett to even some degree. I still feel like we could have got some stuff more, but these are established characters in the established saga who has their own themes, who has their own things. There
was music to use for these characters, and it would have made perfect sense. Yeah,
anyway.
No, you're dead. You are 100% dead on correct, and that is why again the choices made in this series are just
so weird,
so weird.
Yeah,
just so weird.
Anyway,
but yeah. So was that all you had on that that scene? So let me touch on this real quick. I really besides the fact that I'm just glad Palpatine was in this and everything, there's actually something more about this that I think is very important and important for canon, and that is that we know Vader knows Kenobi's still out there, right? And so naturally you would expect that Vader wants revenge still and wants to hunt down Obi-Wan, and he does. But what I think is important here and helps us understand why there was not another confrontation is because Palpatine doesn't want Vader to go after Kenobi.
Right.
He wants him to focus on what he wants.
Because even if it's hatred, that's still a connection. You know what I'm saying? With his old master.
Yeah. And so that actually fuels what he wants from Vader.
Right.
And so, Palpatine in his classic, manipulation, basically tells him, your feelings for your old masters left you weak. If your past cannot be overcome, which then immediately Vader lying, but he says, Kenobi means nothing. I serve only you, my master. And of course that kind of solidifies that Palpatine successfully manipulated him in this to, well, surely you're not going to go and focus on Kenobi when you got all these other things that I need you to do.
Right.
And so it kind of just, for me, I appreciated that moment because it helps to understand why Vader wasn't out there for another round against Kenobi.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
now he means nothing to
Palpatine kind of, and he had to prove that to Palpatine, right? Even though we all know that's not true.
Right.
But,
yeah. So we return to Alderaan. Leia dresses herself with one modification, Tala's holster. Both Queen Breya and Bail Organa.
Which I did think it was adorable that she's like puts on her little outfit and then at the end she grabs the holster and she comes out with the holster on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, Queen Breya and Bail Organa love the new look, and Leia is ready to become a leader with a few changes, of course. All three are greeted by basically to give it more suspense. A ship comes down and I think it's a delegation or one of her cousins.
And in this moment we see Leia, since coming back, has decided she does want to be a part of these things. She does want to, which is neat to see that Obi-Wan is a big part of why she chooses. She wants to be a part of this stuff. She sees the importance of it.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So they think it's a delegation. They think it's somebody, and then Bail's like, no, not quite. So the door lifts down, and we see that beautiful man himself. They're greeted by an arriving Obi-Wan Kenobi, who offers his help to the Organas should they ever need it again. And there's a sweet little, of course, moment between them.
Very sweet. Do you have it?
There's some more stuff, yeah.
Okay.
It says he also comes clean to Leia about not knowing her parents. quote, Princess Leia Organa, you are wise, discerning, and kind-hearted. These are qualities that come from your mother, he tells her. But you're also passionate and fearless, forthright. These are gifts from your father.
I love it. I love it.
Both are exceptional people who bore an exceptional daughter.
So good. So good. It just gave me chills right now.
I know. I'm just like, oh wow, that was emotional.
It's like when the series first started, I was a little like, I don't know if I like this about Leia, but I'm all in on the Leia. I'm all in on Leia being a part of this, and the fact that Obi-Wan really played such an important role in bringing Leia into what we know her to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think he had a lot of influence on her in this, in really these couple of days. I guess it's not even that much.
Yeah, not very long. Yeah,
and so I really like that, and also interesting to note, Kenobi left Tatooine, right?
Mm-hmm.
He left Tatooine here.
Yeah.
To go back here, and I think what it shows Kenobi learning that I can't just always be there for Luke, right?
Yeah.
I can't be there 24/7. And he realizes, and we get this in the next scene where I'll just go ahead and say it, where he tells Owen, he's yours to watch now. Like this is for you guys to do. And we know he goes and packs up his cave.
Yeah.
And because he has a house, or a little hut, come a new hope, and so that tells me he's moving further away from them as well, because we don't really know the distance, but I would assume that cave he was in must have been very close, right, to where Luke was.
Probably why I chose a cave.
and now he's actually going to go and settle down somewhere, still on Tatooine, of course,
right.
But I think
not as held down.
I think that moment and the fact that we see him go to Alderaan and talk with Leia, I think what that tells me is they're opening the door for Obi-Wan to appear in other things, because he'll be willing to leave Tatooine. And so I think that's where, appearances and things such as the second season of Andor and things aren't too crazy to consider. I think he now realizes the importance of fighting the Empire. He has seen the beginnings of a rebellion. He's seen the path. He's seen his people out there fighting, and knowing Kenobi now, especially now that he has his mojo back, he's not gonna be able to just sit by and he's gonna fight in the ways that he can.
Yeah.
And so I think in these last years before A New Hope, I think there was a much more active Kenobi that we didn't necessarily know about.
Yeah.
But I think that's what the end of the show's implying, is that Kenobi maybe didn't just sit on Tatooine for the last 9 years after this.
Right.
But maybe he was a little more active in things.
Yeah, so like I said, we see him talk to Owen and basically like relinquishes some of this overbearing need for protection that he had, and says, hey, I'm going to back off a little bit. You guys clearly can handle yourselves a little bit, and basically, I'll be here, but I think you guys can handle it. And as he's walking away, Owen says, hey, would you like to meet him?
Yeah, and I was like, yes!
So he grabs that little ship that he bought him for the little replica toy that he bought him at the very beginning of the series, and he walks up to him, and as he's about to hand it to him, he looks down to him, and Luke looks up and just, hello there.
Hello there. Oh, so good.
That is so good.
So good. So I loved it. I loved it.
We could talk forever about this. So, of course, the first time we hear him say this iconic line is to Luke, and it's so good. So,
and now knowing it's also his first words to Luke.
Exactly, so good. So we go. So it clips to the next scene, one of the final scenes, and so like I said, up to this point, we just keep seeing Obi-Wan, talk about Master, are you there? Master this, Master that, and it's like up to this point, I'm like, I cannot believe we're not going to see.
I do want to throw one thing in, last thing before we get into Qui-Gon. Jumping back to Leia real quick, I did want to mention this. That the one last thing I want to mention with Leia that I think I really appreciate now, that before I didn't appreciate as much, is the fact that she does name her son Ben. she names her son after Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
And we always assumed that, but now it just has so much more meaning to it
and it's
that
like,
she named her son.
Because it's like, she knew him, but it almost
felt
felt like
but it was like
her brother had a more stronger relationship. And it's like, but now, not really.
Yeah, so that has so much more meaning now that she named her son Ben.
So good. So like I said, after returning to Tatooine, Obi-Wan is wearing his old jabs, blah, blah, blah. Okay, shortly after his interaction with Owen and Luke and meeting him, shortly after, Obi-Wan rides through the desert and then at the very last sees his old master, Qui-Gon Jinn, as a Force ghost. And he was starting to think his old master would never come. And he says, where have you been? I've been calling out to you, etc., etc. And then Qui-Gon simply says, I've always been here, Obi-Wan. You were just not ready to see me. But it's just so good. It was so good. And to see Liam Neeson, it's not some old clip, like it's actually him.
Yeah, because Qui-Gon's first word, it took you long enough,
yeah,
right?
That's true.
That's what he tells Obi-Wan.
Well, it took you long enough. That's so good. And that's like exactly what Qui-Gon would say. It's just exactly the interaction.
And so, and he's like, I was always here. You were just not ready to see. And he's like, come on, we got a ways to go. And it shows them walking off where Obi-Wan will finally begin his training with Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Now, will I admit, I was a little disappointed here because I did want to see. I would love to see some more communication between the two of them, right?
Yeah.
And some of the thoughts that Qui-Gon had and with things, and they didn't give that to us. However, I think a lot of this they've left here at the end as a tease that they could utilize in a second season. So you could see some more of them in a second season. Again, I really don't really know if I want that, but they could utilize that. However, I will say if you're interested in a Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon, Force Ghost discussion, there is a canon short story about this exact thing, where it's actually right before A New Hope, and they're talking, and you get some of those kind of interactions. So it might be kind of a cool piece to go and read
for sure.
after this, and that's actually in the 40th anniversary of A New Hope, the Beyond a Certain Point of View. In that, I think it's maybe the very last story in there. I think it's called Master and Apprentice, just like the Claudia Gray book. But in that short story, it's some neat interactions between the two. So that might be something worth checking out if you're wanting more of that kind of thing. So I was a little disappointed that we got such little of Qui-Gon, but I at the same time I get it. Since they brought him in at the very end, you couldn't really go into a big whole thing there because it just wouldn't have made sense. So I'm just gonna kind of just throw it all out here. With Kenobi, after finishing the series, I'm pretty certain that this should have been a movie.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I think that's where I stand at this point. I've thought about it. I've had time to kind of process the whole thing, and I think this should have been a movie. Originally, this was going to be a movie, right? And we know there's been script changes and things since then, and a lot of stuff has changed since they originally started creating this. But I think when you trim the fat, or at least what I consider to be the fat of the show, I think it could have fit into a movie, and would have been better for it. And I don't have necessarily a big problem with this show. I just think there's a lot of weird decisions.
There's a lot of wasted time.
A lot of wasted time. A lot of things that I think could have been cut out. You have Kenobi who doesn't really become who we expect him to be till literally the end of the show. Yes, could we have seen a beaten down Kenobi? Absolutely. But should have taken it episodes to do so? No. And that's why I think it would have been better in a movie.
Yeah.
Show him beaten down, whatever, but then bring back that hope much quicker.
Yeah.
And then you know, have a little bit of a in the second act, have a little bit of that Inquisitor stuff if you want, but then get straight into business with the so basically it'll be like first act Tatooine, second act in Inquisitorius, third act the battle with Vader and Kenobi, and I think as a movie it would have just been a lot better actually.
Oh, I agree. And I think if we got a movie, I would have complained, probably thinking like, oh man, I wish we got a show because we got more content. But as we've seen, as we think and see with this formula, honestly, they got just too much junk in there.
And that's the thing. Yes, I'm with you. I probably would have said the same thing. Oh man, I wish we would have got a Kenobi series. We would have had more. But we got more, and there's a lot of stuff in the series I don't want to see again.
Right. Yeah.
As much as I love a lot of the last episode and bits and pieces of the series, honestly, there's a lot of it I really don't want to go back and rewatch, and that's really unfortunate to feel that way. But again, I think a lot of it could have been fixed had it been a movie.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to say, I want 15 seasons of Obi-Wan Kenobi, I just thinking like overall, what does this character need? And I think a movie would have made way more sense.
I agree. That's a point that I didn't think about until you said it, but now it makes perfect sense, and I totally agree with that. Because again, a lot of my complaints are two categories. A, like you said, there's a lot of fat, there's a lot of garbage, there's a lot of junk in there that should not have been there, which would have been cut out with a movie. And B, there's a lot of dumb direction, writing, production mistakes, in my opinion, that were stupid. And in a movie, there would have been a greater budget overall,
right?
Or even the same amount of budget, it would have just been focused into one movie rather than an entire series.
Yeah.
And I think that with a movie as well, it would have gotten more scrutiny on some of those stupid little things, like the chase scene or whatever, that would have not have happened because they, with a movie, it's more serious, it's more official. I don't know what the word would be.
Yeah, and I know Solo scared them with like theaters and stuff, but I'm telling you, Obi-Wan Kenobi, a movie of Obi-Wan Kenobi would have done great.
Good.
It would have done well in theaters. I have no doubt, and that's not just because he's my favorite character. I mean, the viewing numbers, everything.
Clearly, there's a lot of people.
That he is a loved character, and people wanted to see him back. And so I think a movie format. Now you could say, well, if they would have just had a different team over this, a series would have been better, and that's possible. I mean, I don't know, and we'll never know. It was this was the team that was given it to do, and this is what we got. And with what we got and with that team, I think a movie would have been better.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm going to throw out the tough question for you. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
In your Star Wars ranking, where does Obi-Wan Kenobi fit?
Gosh. Like, out of everything?
Out of everything. Remember how we ranked everything that one time?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Do you have that saved anywhere?
I remember I didn't have it written down.
You
I should have.
You didn't have it written down? What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
I think I have mine written down. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I told you I was giving you a toughie.
So, to me, it beats out anything sequel trilogy. I'll say that right off the bat.
Agreed.
I don't know that it beats out everything in prequel trilogy or original. I would say there's a couple things in both of those that beats it out, such as Empire, Revenge of the Sith. I do think that Return of the Jedi probably beats it. Now,
maybe I didn't save mine either.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I do like it better than Rebels, although I loved Rebels. I do. I don't know. Do I want to say I like it better than Clone Wars?
Well, what's your number one? Your number one's Empire, right?
Yeah, number one's Empire.
What's 2?
Revenge of the Sith.
Okay. I think that
was both of ours.
Yeah, I think 3 was A New Hope for me.
Yeah, I don't remember what mine was. Like I said, I can barely remember. As you can tell earlier in this podcast, I forgot I was saying mid-sentence, so I don't think I remember what we did several...
Well, I wish I still had that.
Yeah, I know.
That would help, but I think for me...
I'd say, okay, so if we're looking at top to bottom, right? Top being number 1, bottom being whatever worst is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say it is seated above the middle. You know what I'm saying? Like it's in the three quarters.
Well, let me ask you
height.
this: do you think it's better than? Would you rate it higher than the Mandalorian seasons?
That's a hard question because
it's kind of it's see, and that's where I was going to say it's a battle of nostalgia versus
characters, blah blah
like,
blah, versus like production. Production, it definitely is not as good as Mandalorian, especially not season 2, but even both of them. I'd say both of them. In terms of the story, I might have to go with the Mandalorian seasons. I think they're better. I prefer the characters, obviously, of Kenobi, and I want to see more of that. But I think in terms of the story and production, I do think the Mandalorian probably beats it out. But I don't know.
Isn't it crazy that you're saying that right now?
No, it's not crazy. It's sad. That's what it is.
Sad, yeah.
It's sad. That's what it is.
But see, so that's kind of so.
Yeah.
I when I was thinking about it, I think I would have to put. I think I would maybe put it in between the Mandalorian seasons.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Actually, like Mandalorian season 2 is better.
Season 2 would be,
but maybe
be
season 1
it.
not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
And again, a lot of that comes to nostalgia. The characters, I love Kenobi. I love seeing Hayden as Darth Vader. A lot of that pushes it up. Had those things not been in there, or had I no feelings towards those characters,
and
then
also a kind of an independent factor. Is saber battles. We didn't get anything like, well, other than dark saber, but overall, saber to saber, like actual masters of saber fighting, we never got that in a lot of other things. So getting that Kenobi was like, yeah, that was really good, and that's what really pushes it up over a lot of things for me. If there wasn't like a great saber battle, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, the only redeeming quality for this whole series for me was the fact Hayden, Ewan, and saber battles, and that's it.
Yeah. Let's simplify it a little bit. Let's talk about just the Disney Plus series,
okay,
and kind of rank it in there. So we have
better than Boba Fett.
Mando season 1, Mando season 2, The Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm. Thus far, that's it, right?
Unless you want to include The Bad Batch, would technically be a Disney Plus series that, or well, the last season of Clone Wars also is considered a canon Disney. And when I say this, I'm talking about the canon stuff, not like the Lego movies and things.
Yeah.
But the things that came out that were officially part of Disney Plus, not just, I mean, everything's on Disney Plus, but.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my number 1 would be Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah, it's mine. Yeah. So okay, I'll just say this: Mandalorian season 2, number 1. Second and third place is either Clone Wars season 7 or Kenobi. Mandalorian season 1 is below them. Boba Fett is below them. Bad Batch is definitely below them. I like Bad Batch, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's my. I just don't know what second is.
I'm with you.
I don't know.
I mean, that's pretty much
or...
kind of where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
It is kind of. Yeah, it's kind of hard to place Clone Wars. And again, animation versus live action, that makes it tougher as well.
Exactly.
Like, I really enjoyed the last season of Clone Wars, but it is hard to compare it with live action.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of on the same pattern there. Let us know your thoughts, though, on that and what you're thinking. Here we are at... guys, this is special.
This is encroaching on a new record here.
Over 2 hours long.
Yeah, I know. Like 99% of people are not listening to this.
No, there's no way. No one is listening to this right now.
Vague.
This is this is going out into the the
You don't even know what
I don't
you're
even
talking
know.
about.
I don't even know. I was trying to come up with a word for like the audio, like
The ether.
Okay, there, I like that. The ether, the audio ether.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm losing my voice too, so
Maybe we should.
and we have another podcast to do, so we're gonna wrap it up here. But let us know your thoughts. We do want to know your final thoughts on Kenobi. You can comment on our Patreon. You can comment on our Facebook post. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and you can leave your thoughts on Kenobi as well. In that, we'll take it however we can get it. Leave it on our YouTube video of this podcast, whatever it is. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, because we do want to know. And also make sure to subscribe to our Patreon if you hadn't yet. We have a new episode of our exclusive series that's going to be on there, and you do not want to miss that. We'll be talking about the Jurassic Park series. That is what is going to be our main topic. Oh. So you definitely want to hear our thoughts on the Jurassic Park series. And make sure you subscribe on everything: YouTube, Facebook. You can be our friend on there. On our Instagram, we're always posting silly memes, if nothing else, that you can go and check out. But we love you guys so much.
There's some good ones lately.
There has been some good ones. There's some real winners. But we thank you guys so much for just being a part of this and sticking with us for this past over 2 years now, 2.5 years actually. And so we're so thankful for that. So thankful for all of you that listen. But stick around. There's more to come, and we're going to continue to review some really cool stuff as it heads this way. In this later half of the year, we're getting Andor, and we're potentially getting Mando season 3. We're going to be getting a couple of different animated series. We're getting the phase 2 of the High Republic. So much more to come this year. Oh, yeah. We're going to be covering all of it here, so make sure that you stick with us. But until next time, may the Force be with you, and we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.